Hey everybody, this is Sean Caughron with Chester Paul Company. Today, this is our first and inaugural meet an industry friend and partner of Chester Paul, and in this case, a good friend of me personally as well. We have Mike Conte with John Guest with us. We're gonna meet Mike and talk fittings and applications of John Guest and some historical information on them as well. But first, we're going to get to meet Mike. Mike is a native here of Southern California. Grew up in a small town named Eagle Rock, just north of downtown Los Angeles. And Mike was a ball player in all the way through his youth into high school. Played for Cal State LA. He was a third baseman, converted into a catcher extraordinaire, and continued that love of baseball into the minors and playing with the Kansas City Royals minor team. Mike also kept his love of baseball alive and met his lovely sweetheart Liz working as an usher at Dodger Stadium back in the early mid '80s, and they've been married now, I don't know, since the late '80s. We'll have Mike talk more about his family because he's got some his sons in the water industry as well. But Mike has a few other loves. If you know Mike's a slayer when it comes to fishing. If it's a 5-pound trout up in June Lake or a big bluefin tuna out in the open ocean, Mike can definitely hold his own. And as of most recent, he is the Southern California Golf Association champion. Wait, let's get this right. The champion of champions. So he won his membership at the Chevy Chase club that he belongs to. Went on to join a tournament in Palm Springs recently of all the champions from Southern California, and he beat all them as well. So let's welcome Mike Conte to our inaugural podcast. And wait, first of all, let's get this straight. Mike is a great personal friend of mine, and Mike is the kind of guy that if it's a stranger and you need help, Mike will drop everything he's doing and go help this person. Mike is he's a lighthouse of kindness, let's put it that way. Wow. So
I don't know if I can live up to these introductions.
Yeah, you deserve it, my friend.
Wow.
Yeah, how's it going today?
It's going great. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And wow, I didn't expect that, but thanks for the introduction. That was quite the prelude to our podcast.
Hey, you make it easy, my friend. You really do make it easy.
Yeah. I've enjoyed touring your new facility. It's quite impressive, and
thank you.
Congratulations on that. And
Mike and I go back. Mike was a Chester Paul employee when I started here at Chester Paul back in '97. He was hired about a week before me. Is that right?
That's accurate. Yes, yeah. Yes. This was my first job into the industry, and distributor sales guy. When we first started, we were selling a lot of industrial products, FRLs, Hanson Quick Connects, check
pneumatic
valves, hydraulics.
Yeah. And so when Mike joined Chester Paul, Chester Paul had just bought a local competitor that had the John Guest line, and I think Mike was actually, if I'm not mistaken, out running around trying to sell John Guest even before I was.
Yes.
And funny, as history works, Jeff Coody, who is now the VP of Sales at Chester Paul, trained Mike Conte and I both on the John Guest product line.
That's accurate, yes.
Small world. You're going to meet Jeff Coody later today. And I think he has a chat with Mike a little bit later. But, yeah, that's pretty funny. Back in the late 90s,
yes,
out driving around with Thomas guides and using pay phones to get appointments.
Yeah, before cell phones. And emails, and it
So-
was the old days.
The old days. So I think the very first water show you went to as a Chester Paul employee was in '98 at the Fort Lauderdale WQA show.
Right.
And shortly thereafter, PWQA, I believe, in Sacramento or Palm Springs,
Right.
something like that.
Yeah, that was kind of our first introduction into the industry, and getting to know some of the key players, and that's in reality that's what's kept me in this industry is the relationships that we've built and developed, through all those years.
Sure.
And I used to brag to all the people outside the industry that most of my customers are my good friends, and we do stuff out of business.
Yeah.
And there's not too many people that can say that some of your best friends are actually you met them through work.
Absolutely. You've from the Brent Simmons to the Kirk Petersons and
Steve Foxes, Dennis Roberts,
even folks in the association. There's just good people through and through. People that are still in the industry and are a lot quieter nowadays, and kind of more behind the scenes. And I've got friends still at DuPont, and just really throughout.
Right.
Back in the days when there was, the Topway Globals and the KISS Internationals, and
Exactly.
there was it was those were great times in the 90s and early 2000s in the water industry.
No doubt.
Still a great industry, still great people, and a lot of the players haven't changed, which is cool.
Yeah. Yes. That's true. It's been a good relationship throughout the years with a number of people that we continue to have those strong relationships with.
Oh yeah, they're the trade shows are some of the best reunions. I'm pretty selfish. I'll force us to go and do all these things at the trade show, but it's really just because I want to see a lot of great people.
Exactly.
But so you worked for Chester Paul that time for about 3 years before you went to go work for John Gass. Coody did his job in training us properly, and my last name keeps me here at Chester Paul, and you moved on to John Gass. So
Jeff actually had a little involvement in hiring me.
Stealing my guys.
But I started with John Guest, and back in 2000, January 3rd of 2000.
So it's 22 years this year.
22 plus years. Sean, there's a reason that I've stayed with John Guest for these years, because I truly believe they make the best product in the industry. It was a family-owned and operated company at that time, and it just had a good feel to it. And when you work for good people and you're representing and trying to sell a product that is going to last, is going to work, and is going to have legs, it's the reason I stayed there that long.
Makes it easier to sell for sure.
Exactly. It's so much easier to sell something when you believe in it. And my belief in the product is so great that it's made my job a lot easier. And now we've got into another era of John Guest, where RWC, Reliance Worldwide Corporation, purchased John Guest just under 4 years ago now.
They're Australia.
Australia-based company,
right?
And they started their growth with the Shark Bite. They purchased acquired companies, Holdrite, Cash Acme, pressure relief valves, and now John Guest.
Right.
And now we've also bought Easy Flow.
Right.
So basically a plumbing company, and with John Guest's introduction into the plumbing industry, it was a natural fit for Reliance and John Guest to join hands. And
let's back up one sec. Now, John Guest was an engineer himself, right?
Yes, there was a John Guest.
Right.
He was an engineer. Invented this fitting back in the 60s, late 50s or early 60s.
Okay.
Initially, it was a metallic fitting. In the 70s, started making it in plastics, and introduced it to the U.S. market at that time. And so they've been a big part of the water industry since the 70s.
Okay, so I think probably most of our viewers are going to be familiar with John Guest in the late 80s, early 90s, probably,
Yes.
when it was really kind of pushing some of the brass compression out of the systems and
Exactly.
competing with the likes of Jayco or a plastic compression. Typically used in RO systems and whatnot in the water.
Yeah, and then that was a big roadblock, a big hurdle to overcome. The industry was kind of locked into compression fittings.
Just squeeze the crap out of the tubing, basically. You clamp down, you just got to.
Yeah, you had a ferrule.
Yep.
You had to put a wrench on it. So John Guest had to basically introduce this new technology, push connect, to the industry, and
I remember people describing it as, it's like Chinese finger game where you put your, the tighter you try to pull out, or the harder you try to pull out, the tighter it gets on the connection.
Yeah, it's the old thing. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right.
So the fitting was designed. There's a body. You have an O-ring, which gives you the seal around any OD tubing or pipe that you're using, and then you have the collet, which is a gripping mechanism. And when you insert that tube or pipe, those legs of that collet expand out, and the fitting is tapered in towards the top, so it's virtually impossible for that to come out. So it
I've broken plenty of fittings trying to just yank tubing out because I'm a horrible installer, but people like to pretend I'm an installer and make me get under there. And, so I'm trying to use my fingers and a pair of scissors and a screwdriver and go the shortcut way and leave it under pressure and try to So you end up destroying everything. So it does not disengage easily.
Yeah.
The product was made in the UK originally. Is it still?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's still the manufacturing process, the warehouses, Reliance, purchased all those assets, and so everything is still done in the UK.
So Alliance here in the U.S. is based in Atlanta, and John Guest, the product line in the entirety, as I understand it, is made in the UK.
Yes.
Okay. And it's sold worldwide?
Sold worldwide. There's a John Guest USA. We've got Germany, France, Italy, Australia, Czech. There's locations around the world. So we are a worldwide company. Mm-hmm. We've got over 4 billion fittings under pressure in service. We're the largest push connect manufacturer in the world. No one else has more fittings under pressure than John Guest.
4 billion?
4 billion.
I think that's more than McDonald's served hamburgers.
It might be. It might be. But that's an impressive stat. That
Absolutely.
We've been selling push connect fittings longer than anybody, and it is a quality product.
What I find cool about it is the design has been. There's always new products, but the original design has not changed. Even the we'll call them like products, people that have kind of reverse engineered or developed a very similar product to John Guest. It's still a very basic. Some people have changed the shape of the teeth or a different shape collet, but
right.
the design is still the way Mr. Guest designed it, and it hasn't changed in really 40 years. I mean, it's saying something. It says how it works. Yeah, it's pretty simple.
When you invent something and you're the innovator of it, you go through your growing pains and you tweak it, you make it better, and it's evolved to where it's at today very, very quickly. But when you reverse engineer something, you don't know why it went wrong. John Guest knew why it went wrong, and he made those changes internally within the fitting and all the design phases of the fitting to make sure that it is a consistently molded product that gives you a secure connection every time.
So you get to 4 billion fittings in service.
Yeah,
that's a great number.
Exactly.
What applications, I guess we'll start in the water industry, but what applications are just real typical? We're going to have some people that are going, we know exactly what we use it for. But I guarantee if you look at what John Guest product line is now versus when I was originally selling it, we knew the threaded elbows and the T to run to an ice maker, or just a standard male connector to go in and out of a filter housing. Those, I think, most of our pro channel viewers know what that is.
Right.
But there's some cool new stuff. I know you've got fittings now that go on the back of dishwashing machines to connect the water line coming that feeds the dishwasher.
Right.
What else is new? I mean, the product line has grown tremendously over 20 years.
It has. Our largest market still is water filtration, the water industry. Then we get into the appliance industry. Most people don't know that we're in the automotive industry. We have a Ford Q1 rating. We're on a Ferrari vehicle. Those are specific fittings to the automotive industry that can't be sold, through our channels.
They're proprietary for that auto
Yes.
manufacturer. Right?
And the reason we bring that up is because you have to, meet some pretty strict standards to get on an automobile.
Right.
So, a lot of people try to classify our product as a commodity. I don't like that word, because it is a highly engineered product that meets some standards and goes through some testing and certifications that can go on automobiles. And you're not going to get that type of off-the-shelf product with most companies. So
I think most guys that have or gals that have been in the water industry long enough and have put water on the floor enough times, water on the floor not intentionally, or in the middle of the night when somebody's on vacation for a week, you don't really want to call anything we use a commodity. You want to make sure that you can sleep at night with what's installed.
Exactly.
So exactly. I agree. If it's if your name or if your wallet is on the line, you probably don't want to consider all your connection points to be inexpensive or cheap commodities.
Exactly. Then we get into other industries. I mean, it's.
Are you in ag? And
we're in agricultural. We're in pneumatic applications. I deal with people with inflatable medical devices for after post-surgery. That they put a splint on that circulates hot and cold water for your muscles and to regenerate after surgery. We've even been on enema machines. So anytime you're pushing air or water from a 1/4 inch now to 1 inch CTS and even larger with the shark bite products, there's an application for us. But we get into dialysis equipment. We're on dialysis equipment. We get into fiber optics. We even make a fiber optic connection. So we're all over the map. So when you just try to classify us as water, we service 10 to 20 different industries that are now using our products. And then you get into the OEM aspect of it, where we sell a lot of the half cartridges to companies like
hang on. I know what, and a lot of you guys know what a half cartridge is, but an OEM is somebody who's making equipment. If you're making a pump, or if you're making a filter or an inline filter, and then an Omnipure inline filter is a good example.
Right.
Where when you say half cartridge, well, they don't technically use a half cartridge, but we're going to pretend they do because it looks the same to the.
It's evolved for Omnipure to a different product.
But so basically, it's the locking mechanism and the collet pressed into the manufacturer's product. If it's a pump head for a pump, or if it's a drain clamp that goes on your waste, or your concentrate line from an RO to the trap underneath the sink, or
a manifold.
Or a manifold.
You can create your own manifold with as many ports as you want. Basically, we give you the cavity dimension, and to accept our half cartridge, which comes in 3 pieces. You have a body, which incorporates stainless steel teeth, that are also available in stainless steel and brass. That's more of an interference fit, but that is pressed into the cavity that we give you the dimensional drawings for. An O-ring is placed in, and then the collet's inserted. Basically, it gives you a flush mount design. So anywhere where you have a male or female threaded port where you'd put our male connector in, you could, in a pump head like Aquatech does or Omnipure does with their inline filters and Q series, you can incorporate that into that original equipment manufacturer's product And it's a benefit to the end user because now you have a push connect installation. It's easier for service and replacement on filters.
Sure.
So we've done really well with the half cartridge and sell millions and millions of those a year.
Yeah, you'll see those even on all of the manifold type systems. The
Yes.
ins, the outs, the drains, the tank connections. If it's a Culligan or if it's a whoever's Pentair, it's got a manifold type RO system
Right.
or filtration system. It makes for a nice clean installation.
It does.
We'll drop some pictures and some notes of that in our links here so that people can see them, reference what we're, have a reference point to what we're talking about.
Right.
And you now go all the way from little 1/4-inch type tube connection to an 1.25 copper.
Right.
So just so everybody gets it, there's OD tubing, which is what we use typically in drinking water systems. So it's 1/4-inch, 3/8, and 1/2-inch OD.
OD
Obviously,
sensor.
there's a few other sizes, but
Right.
1/4, 3/8, half OD. And then it kind of jumps to copper tube size, which
Correct.
is its own real creation of a dimension. 1/2-inch copper pipe is a 5/8 OD. Typically.
Correct.
So John Guest has now made a full line of copper tube, which doesn't mean you have to use it with copper. It just means you have to use it with a hard material like a copper or a CPVC or a PEX. Yeah.
Yes. Those are the three materials that the fittings are suitable for. And now we're plumbing houses with that. So it's
I was going to say,
cold.
what's the applications there? I mean, I know you can plumb a water softener with it. You can plumb
A tankless water heater. You can plumb a whole house filtration system. You can transition from anywhere in your house down to a 1/4-inch, 3/8, or 1/2-inch tubing in one fitting now. So, yeah.
So I can run my 3/4-inch copper in my home. I can transition from that to PEX, and then from that even down to 1/4-inch OD or 3/8 OD tubing to use for a drinking water system.
Correct. To feed multiple, appliances or RO systems or countertops or under sink units.
And your parent company, RWC, probably owns the majority of that business, right? With SharkBite.
Yes.
That's their large market, and I'm sure the folks are familiar with SharkBite. That's a brass.
It's a lead-free brass.
Lead-free brass
Yes.
product. Okay.
So and we also have an EvoPEX line that for new construction.
Right.
So we've got options for SharkBite service and repair, EvoPEX for new construction, John Guest for also adapting and transitioning from your main plumbing line to an RO system and plumbing homes. So we go with the full gamut, basically from your main water feed all the way through. Now with the acquisition of EasyFlow, faucets, and a number of flexi lines and other items that are involved in plumbing your homes and fixtures throughout the house.
In making connections from your water distribution system in your home to a drinking water system, to a toilet, to any sort of appliance.
Exactly.
Cool. What the PEX, I remember the PEX when it was used mostly in marine, so it was in like luxury yachts and any size boat that had a plumbing system in it, and a lot of RVs. That's now transitioned throughout homes, and in Europe, I understand it's used almost primarily. It's the go-to plumbing fitting in a residential. Yeah.
Commercial. I went back there for a plant tour and visit, and we went to a local pub and
Shocking.
Yeah. Well, if you're invited, you have to attend. But
Mike's invited me a lot of ways.
But we went to a local pub and we went to the restroom. We saw John Guest fittings in the restroom. We saw it on some Heineken systems behind the bar. So, we're heavily into beverage systems, beer systems. The UK is basically all metric sizes. But we also have a full line of metric products too, because there's a lot of cappuccino machines. There's a lot of products that are built outside of the U.S. that come in with metric parts.
Sure.
So John Guest does have the full line of metric options for you too. And you're talking about the marine industry. Most of those international, the yachts made in Italy, made in Europe, those are all metric sizes, 15,
Right.
20 millimeter. So we have those options too. So we can supply most anything needed when it deals with copper pipe, CPC, or PEX, or linear low density polyethylene, which is your 1/4 inch and 3/8 and 1/2 inch tubing.
Standard tubing that we use every day.
We've also got fittings to transition. So if you're using a beverage type nylon reinforced tubing, we have a tube to hose stem where you can basically insert that into the ID of that beverage tubing, come out with the stem, and then transition to a John Guest. So we've got all the options to get you to a John Guest connection to help improve your installation time and your repairability and your replacement of filters or whatever needs to be done on any of your equipment.
I guess we should probably, this is probably a good spot to talk about there's some definite do's and don'ts with John Guest. I've seen, we won't call them funny, but I've seen some probably not highly recommended installs or treatment of the product. I mean, we've gotten stuff back that I guess let's do this before I even go down that topic. There's 3 basic product lines or materials that we use when we're talking about John Guest fittings that we use typically in the water industry. There's polypropylene, which is our number 1 recommendation. There's white acetal, and there's gray acetal.
Right.
Now the gray acetal has a nitrile O-ring.
Correct.
And then the white acetal has a
EPDM O-ring.
EPDM, and then the Polypro has an EPDM as well.
Yes.
So we recommend the Polypro with an EPDM because why?
Well, a lot of city and municipalities now have gone to chloramines to disinfect their water supplies.
So you mean the municipalities mixing, from any
Glendale,
city?
more, whatever city you may live in.
I think it's 30 to 40% of the U.S. now has chloramines introduced in the water.
And the PI fitting is suitable for that.
Right.
PP fittings with the EPDM O-ring is better.
Right.
So it's not that the PI range is going to be an issue, but the polypropylene with that EPDM O-ring and the chemical compatibility.
Yeah, the material
strings.
itself is a stronger material. It's softer to the touch, but a stronger material when it comes to chemicals attacking it.
Exactly.
And the reason I even brought that part up, because I was going to, when I was talking about the do's and don'ts, I've gotten product back that's almost orange. It looked like it sat in a bowl of bleach, and we're talking about failure. So you want to make sure that you do keep, typically a lot of these drinking water systems are shoved under the sink, and then Mrs. Jones packs all of the chemicals in the house around that system. Same thing in a convenience store when you've got, post-mix beverage machines and coffee equipment and whatever else, and they're coming through spraying all sorts of caustic cleaning supplies. The polypropylene definitely has a better chance of hanging out in that environment, and even though it's technically being misused or a little abused, maybe even, it's got a better chance of surviving in those caustic environments. So when we're talking about things I've screwed up using John Guest on, makeshift.
You never screw up.
No. Yeah, and not my failures using John Guest fittings are small compared to the other piles of failures or issues in life.
No.
And You know, one of my go-tos that is a big no is grabbing a pair of kitchen scissors when I'm in somebody's house trying to install something and just giving a nice squeeze where I'm flattening the tubing, cutting it crooked. There's usually a burr because they're dull scissors, and then I'm trying to kind of fix that, chewing on the tubing to try to get the radius back to round. Don't use that. We sell what, like
a John Guest tube cutter.
A tube cutter. Well, and it's basically it's
got a pointed blade.
A pointed blade. Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, what that does is it pierces the tubing so it doesn't compress it down.
Yeah.
You know, the tubing will eventually come back to its shape, but if you're using a flat blade or a piece of a scissor or dull scissor, and you cut
knife,
you cut that and insert it and put it under pressure right away, that tubing hasn't come back to its original state.
Yeah.
So you could create a little weep. But you got to make sure basically the tubing doesn't have any score marks. It's cut square, and it's not compressed. And you know, when you insert, make sure you bottom out at the tube stop and give it a little tug to make sure you're in and to set that O-ring. And you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I've seen fittings in the back of trucks or in storage bins where you get, you know, some dog hair and some improperly stored just in time. If you end up with gook on the O-ring, if it's debris, well, it's probably debris is a more technical term than gook, but when you insert that tubing, the tubing is laying onto that O-ring and making the seal. So
right.
When you store these, you want to keep them as debris free as possible. That's a common, very few problems, but that'll be a common misuse that we catch.
Typically, if you do see a teardrop, little drip, I mean, a lot of times that's a tell that there's something around that O-ring. Like you say, some people put these in bins and there's dust, there's debris, there's saws going on. You put it in your pocket, there's a piece of lint that gets in there. Sometimes before you install it, just blow through that fitting. Make sure that O-ring is free of any lint or dirt. You know, a lot of plumbers are crawling under houses. They drop it in the dirt.
Right, sure.
You know, so it is an O-ring seal product, and that's common with any push connect fitting. There's an O-ring seal, so that's you have to be conscious of that. Make sure that there is no debris in there, and that could create a little gap between that tubing and the O-ring, like you said.
Yeah, and if you've inserted something that's aggressive, if the debris is aggressive, you can actually cut the O-ring.
Yes.
And at that point, you just need to pop in a new O-ring, and you're back and running.
Yeah, and if you're using copper or metallic tubing or pipe,
you need to deburr it.
Standard plumbing techniques where, you know, after you make your cut, you make sure you deburr it, so you're not chunking that O-ring with that sharp edge of that pipe going in. Yeah.
Well, cool. I think we've covered what do you find? We've covered most of the do's and don'ts. It's pretty simple. Keep the fittings clean. Cut straight tubing lines.
Yeah, and the fittings can be reused multiple times, but after a certain amount of, you know, insertion and disconnecting and connecting of the pipe or tubing, we do recommend that you cut that piece off.
Right. Maybe
3/8 to a 1/2 inch off. Yeah. To get a clean surface for that O-ring. I mean, the fitting is designed to be reusable. But after multiple times, just give a visual inspection of that tubing before you insert it to make sure there's no score marks. In plumbing applications, sometimes people are pulling that through a bracket or a stud, and you could get a sliver or a nail. Yeah. But you know, most of the time we're dealing with 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch OD stuff. But it's still good to give a visual inspection of that piece of pipe or tubing that you're inserting into the fitting before you do it.
Sure.
And pressure test the system, you know, before you leave if you're doing an install. Yeah. But everyone kind of knows that. You know, we've got some pretty intelligent people in the industry that have used the product for years, and they're very familiar with that. But I mean, it's just those reminders every now and then that, you know, it's helpful.
The biggest takeaway, you know, people I'd like people to hear and remember is that if you're using John Guest, you're you can have a little bit more peace of mind. And I've spoken with people over my entire career in the water industry, and when you're making price point decisions based on, these 4 fittings that are needed to be put into the install, and it's you're talking fractions of dollars. It's all fittings are not created equal,
Right.
and if you want to save $1, you probably don't want to do it with a bunch of fittings. And the connection points are where problems happen. So there's a reason that John Guest is the biggest, and you sell the product through many distributors like Chester Paul. You sell the product, it's available retail. You're not going to get the pro pricing and whatever else, but it's available at the retail big box shops. So you can get the products available across the country, across the world. But the distribution system's strong in the U.S., and we've enjoyed our 25 years of John Guest partnership.
Yeah, and we appreciate your support through the years. It's been a great partnership, but I mean, to your point, exactly. I mean, obviously, cost is important to everyone. Whether you're building equipment, selling equipment, a water dealer, selling it to the public and
the
servicing it. I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to have some confidence in what we're using. And again, that's why I've been with this company for 23 years, is because I have total confidence in the product, in its functionality, and that's why we've been around that long. But
and quite frankly, a lot of my partners that are quality manufacturers are using John Guest when they integrate it into their system. It tells me something when people making a secondary product or a consumer product, that the people are not aware of the fitting that's used internally in it. Well, when they're choosing John Guest, which isn't the cheapest option, but guess what? It's the most reliable, and that's why they're choosing
exactly.
it. If they're going to bring a product to market that costs a lot more than what we sell day in and day out, they're making the right decision, not going with that. Let me save a few pennies on a connection. So.
Yeah, if you're saving a few pennies, and you might be using anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15 fittings.
Yeah.
It's under a couple bucks
for sure.
And the risk is greater than that if you have some problems. John Guest has a great brand name. It has great following. I equate that to like a Kleenex. I mean, everyone calls a Kleenex, but a Kleenex is a brand name.
You're saying Kleenex gives you nice comfort?
Well, or like a Xerox copy.
Yeah,
I mean, Xerox is a brand name.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone can make a copy, but when they think of Push Connect fittings, they think of John Guest.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think of the great people at John Guest.
Well, I appreciate that. We still do have some great people.
Absolutely.
And with Reliance, we've got even greater people with some great insight and knowledge and guidance that's going to drive this company, further than Mr. Guest could have as a private company. So
absolutely.
So yeah, it's been a great partnership. It's been a fun run, and hopefully we're going to keep continue this going.
We're going to keep running, Miguelito.
Yeah.
Well, so now Mike is going to join Jeff Coody out in our trainer. Back when Mike and I were much better looking and a lot younger.
I used to have hair back when I knew you.
You did. You had hair when you started here. I can give you some of mine now.
But yeah, Jeff's going to show me the warehouse, and the building's impressive. It's inside and out, and what you have in it. You have quality products throughout, and that's why we like partnering with distributors like yourself that carry the number one brands throughout their building.
We sure think we do.
And so yeah, it's been fun, and looking forward to what the future holds for us.
Awesome. Well, I'll sketch you when you come back from the warehouse, and see you guys all in a sec.
Hi, this is Jeff with Mike. We're at the Chester Paul warehouse, and we're going to be going over the John Guest product line today. This is a brand new facility we've been in for the last 6 or 7 months, and what we're going to do is actually talk a little bit about the John Guest product line. This section here is our NC part numbers, which are some non-catalog items. We also have a range of metric products for those of you that aren't familiar with the metric line.
Also some Super Seal.
Some Super Seal. Which is designed to go, Mike, is that designed to go on stainless steel tubing? Is that how that works? And what would be an application for that?
Instant Hot.
Instant Hot, that's a perfect undersink.
Machines. A lot of beverage systems might have some stainless steel.
Okay.
But it incorporates a double O-ring and a twisting function to actually grip that collet on that hardened stainless steel.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, and make sure that it stays in place and it doesn't blow out. Okay, and we also have the most popular line. One of the most popular lines would be the PI range. And those are actually made out of acetyl. And what kind of O-ring do those have in it, Mike?
They have a natural PNN O-ring, which is suitable for pneumatic applications, water filtration applications. So it's our universal fitting.
Okay.
They can be used anywhere to all the industries that we sell.
Now those are actually, they're gray in color, right? A light gray with a darker gray collet, if you will.
Correct.
And what you can see here is those are denoted by a PI at the beginning, and a lot of people don't know this about the part numbers. There is some methodology to the John Guest part numbering system. The first number, or the first letters would be PI, which stands for, is it plastic inch?
Yeah,
I think it is.
Yeah.
The next two numbers actually denote the configuration of the actual product. For example, a 08 would actually be a plug. The next two number designations are for the size of the actual tube that would go into it. And then if there's a actual third set of numbers, that would be for the threaded portion of it. Now that is correct, right?
That is correct.
I make this stuff up as I go along because I used to know a little bit about John Guest.
And actually the last color, we'll call out color.
Last letter.
The last letter,
Okay.
excuse me.
So S stands for gray. Brits, they can't
It's
spell.
our standard product. If it ends in a W, that would be a white fitting. If it ends in an E, that would be a black fitting, ebony. So if you look at a part number and you can tell what configuration it is, what material it is, and what color it is based on that part number.
And as you can see, we have a pretty good extensive inventory of John Guest products, which is one of the reasons for moving into a little larger of a warehouse so that we can actually stock the products and make sure we have them when the customers need them. And actually, that's just row one. We have a whole nother row to go.
Nice assortment of bulk items.
Yep, these would be our valve section here. As you can see, we have quite a bit of inventory. The angle stop adapter valves, we have numerous boxes of those. On down to what section are we in now, Mike? Oh, we're still in ASVs, it looks like. Wow, that's a lot of angle stop adapter valves.
Yes.
Anyone that needs any, this is your place to get them.
Then we get into the CI range, it looks like. And
now the CI range, that's kind of an interesting range because they're white, but yet they are made out of acetyl, right?
That is correct. They are an acetyl product. That was our first introduction into a different color range when we first started. And people wanted white fittings because they had white housings, white brackets, white filters. So our initial introduction to a white fitting was the white acetyl range.
Now, other than the color, what else is different between the CI and the PI?
The CI range also has has an EPDM O-ring rather than a nitrobutane O-ring.
And why is that important?
That's important because of the chloramines issues that have come up with the disinfection of water supplies. And these fittings with EPDM cannot be used with compressed air systems.
Okay, so they're EPDM O-rings and the CI range are recommended for water because it's more chloramine resistant.
Correct.
So that O-ring's not going to like harden.
Exactly.
Okay, and then get a potential weep over decades of use. And that would be the CI range. Now, this is a line that we're really seeing more and more of, more demand, and selling quite a bit more of is the polypropylene version. Now these, what's the O-ring in these?
This is also an EPDM O-ring.
Okay.
And we've really expanded the line to introduce more configurations, more SKUs to the line. to give that customer an option between the PI and the PP range.
I got you. Now, does the polypropylene range, the PP, does that have any advantages over like the CI range?
Just material, chemical compatibility issues.
Oh, okay. So polypropylene is a little more chemical resistant. I gotcha. So for water, probably the best product, though they all work with water, the polypropylene would probably be the best bet for water.
Yes.
And then with air, if you're running air, though, you recommend like the PI range.
Definitely.
Because of the O-ring. And what O-ring was in that?
That would be a nitrile butane.
A nitrile, okay. So yeah, we are seeing more and more demand for the polypropylene.
Yes.
Because obviously we sell mostly into water, and you can see we have quite a bit of product in here. Okay, now the PSEI, what is that? What range would that be?
That would be our plumbing range.
Okay, and what sizes do you go up to in the plumbing range?
We go 1/2 inch CTS all the way up to 1 inch CTS. So we're starting to get into water softener applications, whole house filtration applications,
Gotcha.
and actually plumbing homes.
Oh, okay. So you
go-
can use these fittings to plumb homes?
Yes, they're ATMO listed, NSF listed, and so they're good for the hot or cold side. So we can plumb a house with this product.
And what kind of pipe can you use with this plumbing range?
You could use CPVC,
Okay.
PEX, or copper. So it's a very versatile fitting, and it has a twist and lock function. So it actually clamps down on that collet right at the gripping mechanism
Okay.
to assure you get a tight fit.
I was going to open one up and show you, but apparently I don't have one of those open. Now, can you explain to me this? There's some confusion on this regarding when you say CTS range. Okay, can you explain the difference between CTS and OD, or outside diameter, which the other fittings are called out by?
Yes. So all the PSEI fittings and PEI fittings, the plumbing fittings, we're calling out plumbers' terms because CTS, copper tube size. So that's the terminology used in the plumbing industry. When you start to look at the PI range, the PP range, the CI range, and the SI range, we're talking OD sensitive.
Okay.
So a 1/4 inch
Outside
fitting.
diameter of
The
pipe?
tubing.
Okay, the tubing that you're
Yes.
putting into it. Okay,
And
tubing versus pipe.
Tubing
Gotcha.
versus pipe, yes. So all of our other fittings are OD sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're calling out a 1/4 inch fitting, basically you're using a 1/4 inch piece of tubing.
Okay, 1/4 inch OD tube. And when you get to the CTS range, if it says, let's say, 1/2 inch CTS, what would that be equivalent of for an OD?
Basically it jumps up. So a 1/2 inch CTS is a 5/8 OD.
Gotcha.
But we don't go there unless
Right.
a customer actually wants to know the actual OD of the tubing. But all the plumbing terms are copper tube size.
Right, and that CTS is actually an ID rating, isn't it?
Well, there's different wall thicknesses.
Depends on the thickness of the PEX pipe or or whatever
Or
you're
the copper,
using.
yeah.
Gotcha.
There's variations of all those.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate oh, guess what? And hopefully you can edit very well. I forgot this whole side here is tubing related.
Yes.
Okay, and as you know, John Guest comes in a lot of different sizes of tubing. The most popular in the water treatment industry, 1/4 inch, 3/8 OD,
1/4 inch and 3/8,
a little 1/2 inch. You can't see a whole lot of colors because the boxes are closed. You can see some blue. It's a vibrant blue color. You got red, you got green. You even do it in violet and yellow and white and orange and black. And you can see we keep quite a bit of tubing on hand as well. There's some yellow tubing. There's even some orange tubing there. I haven't seen orange tubing in I don't know how long, but apparently we have some. So if anyone needs orange tubing, this is the place to come get it.
Impressive amount of inventory that you have here, Jeff.
Well, thank you very much. We've been selling this product for going on 25, 26 years now, and it's a very good product line. It's done very well for us, and we strongly believe in it. And we will continue to promote it and sell it. It's the best product line on the market, without a doubt.
Well, I appreciate you having me and giving me a tour of the warehouse facility.
Well, thanks for stopping by.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. If you made it this far, we appreciate you hanging around and hope you got a little insight on my good buddy here, Mike, and John Guest, RWC. And we're gonna have some more of these longer format meeting people, getting in a little bit further into the weeds of what the product offering is and where it came from, and Chester Paul's history with it, and hopefully give you a little insight as to what we've got going on, and what our friends like John Guest have going on, and where they came from, and where we're going. So thank you, Mike.
Thank
That
you,
was
Sean.
awesome.
I appreciate your time, and it's always fun.
Absolutely.
Always fun.
And you're going to be at WQA in April in Florida?
Yes, it'd be good to see everyone again. It's been a 2-year drought.
2-year drought, but we're back, and I look forward to seeing you all then. Thanks for checking us out.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, everyone.
Have a good day.